Hi everyone, and welcome to this YouTube fly tying tutorial. As you can see, we have a special guest tyer with us today, Mr. Don Ward from the Keystone Fly Rod Company. Welcome to the show, Don.
Hi, Tim.
Well, before Don and I talk about this fly that he's going to be tying for you today, I'm going to first ask Don a couple questions going back to his company. So Don builds his own bamboo fly rods, which is absolutely incredible. To start with a calm and have this finished rod that just fishes so beautifully. Don, why don't you tell everybody what got you into bamboo and why has it really just stuck with you since?
I think fly tying is what got me into bamboo, Tim. Catching fish on flies that I got to tie, I mean, that was just something pretty special to me. So the next step was maybe catch a fish on a rod that I built. I love to construct things. So to be able to build a fly fishing rod from a piece of grass was just kind of blew my mind, and just kind of took off after a class I took building my first rod in a class. It just took off, and I've been experimenting, building, gathering tools ever since then.
Okay, and I know a lot of the viewers probably have never fished a bamboo fly rod before. What advice do you have to them? Because I think so many guys are just afraid to pick up a rod that they know costs $1,000, $1,500.
Yeah, no, I do it. They're strong. I mean, I've had the same 8-foot rod for how many years we've fished together.
Yeah. Dropped
it down rock cliffs, and I mean, nothing has happened to it. Some scratches, some nice battle scars on it. That's about it.
So basically, get it in their hands, cast it, and see if you can find a taper that fits.
Yep. Order one from Keystone.
You heard that here first.
and then get out and fish it. I mean, you got to find a bamboo rod that suits you. I think that goes for any rod. Find one that fits your casting stroke, and I mean, there's so many different tapers out there in the bamboo world. I think a couple guys might pick up some bad ones, and they kind of give that the overview of the whole group.
Okay. Yeah, and they seem to have this knock that a lot of guys assume that these bamboo fly rods are the ones that maybe their grandfathers fished in the 50s, those super long, just bears that just weighed so much. And I think there's this misconception now, because a lot of the current bamboo fly rods being built are just lightweight, are beautiful casting rods, and they're just made for dry fly fishing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's where they shine. I mean, presenting a dry fly is the name of the game.
That's it. All right, cool. While we're on the subject of your company, his website, by the way, is keystoneflyrodcompany.com. Don also builds nets and ferrule leaders, plus the bamboo fly rods, which you can check out on that website. The nets are also something really unique and very special. Will you tell everybody about this net that you've designed and created on your own?
Yeah, I mean, the net came along, you know, from the fly tying rods, so on and so forth, and I just wanted to add a little twist to it when I was building my own net. One pet peeve I have with my net was the frustration of getting the magnet attached to my back and having it zip tied to the hoop of my net. So I embedded a magnet in the hoop of my net frames and made that work with a wood frame.
Yeah, and they're just beautiful wooden nets. So again, if you have a chance to visit his site, it's www.keystoneflyrodcompany.com. All right, now let's move on to the actual pattern that you're tying for everyone today, and that's the Stimulator. What can you tell that beginning fly tyer, that fly fisherman who's never used it before? Any tips or techniques, first of all, for anyone who might be a little cautious about tying it at first?
I think just like any other fly, Tim, you just want to break it down step by step. If you keep it that simple and just take one step at a time and follow the proportions of the pattern, I think after a couple flies you'll have it nailed.
All right, perfect. That's great advice, and we are going to break it down for you step by step through our procedures. Let's talk about the actual fishing of this pattern. Again, any tips, techniques you can offer, or any great stories you have about it?
Yeah, I mean, one time I was fishing out in central PA over the Sulphur Hatch.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like 2 to 3 weeks in, fish bubbling everywhere, an hour before dark, tons of sulfurs on the water. I was by myself. I threw, I don't know, 15 different patterns at these fish, just to have them reject me. I seen a couple big stones up in the air, and I had a few big stimmies with me, like size 10. I'm not kidding you, every cast with that fly, I nailed one of their fish.
You heard it here first. If you use this fly in a size 10, you're going to catch more fish than everyone else out there. What about, let's talk about smaller sizes. Do you vary the size of it? Because it sounds like we're probably going to be tying a larger pattern today.
Yeah, absolutely. I keep the 10 the size 10s and 12s in my box for
Okay.
a little bit of the bigger streams. And then I'll tie a big black stemmy in like a size 6, just to kind of represent the big black stonefly. But then small stream stuff, like little brookie fishing, I love to do that a lot. And that's what, like my second or third pattern that I'll have is like a size 16.
Okay.
It just floats well, you can see it real well. So if I ever need a backup to my humpy, that's it.
That's it. All right, awesome. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I am definitely excited to see this pattern get tied. So we're going to kind of rearrange everything. We'll show you a look at the finished fly first. We'll give you the tying recipe, then we're going to get into the procedures for this stimulator fly.
Stay tuned.
Nice. All right, now that we have shown the materials listed for this pattern, Don, why don't you take us away and tie the stimulator for everyone?
Okay, Tim, to start, like the material said, I have a 200R. I'm going to tie this from size 4 to size 16. Most of my patterns I use the Uni 8/0 Rust Brown.
Okay.
And for this pattern, I actually start my thread at the back of the hook and work it all the way forward quickly, just to give myself a little base layer for the hair.
Mm-hmm.
And then my thread's at the starting point rather than working back and then back up. Now I'm going to use just deer hair for most of my patterns. And I'm going to take a clump, roughly the size of my whip finisher.
Okay.
Okay, it's not a lot. I like a fine tail, and this is going to help build the body up a little bit. And then I'm just going to get all the little fibers and everything out of the butts of that hair. I'm going to put it in my hair stacker. Give it a little stack. Now when it comes out, the tips will be even. Any fuzz will still be there. I'm going to grab the tips. Now when I go to tie this, I'm going to switch to my right hand. I'm going to lay this tail where I want it. And I just want this just a little bit past the bend of the hook. And now I'm going to pinch down, but I'm pinching up ahead because I want that full length of this deer hair. Now the trick with deer hair is tension. Now if I pull that real tight, you see how it flares the hair out.
Yeah.
Now if I leave it loose, I don't get that big flare. It's easier to cut.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I work back, I will really torque it down, that way it binds to the hook. Now the same with this is starting to spin around, so you just want to get your finger up there and kind of keep that from spinning around the hook. Keep it on the top of the hook. I'm going to tie this roughly to where my thread ended, which is right above the barb, and I'm going to take a couple loose wraps, just nice and loose. There's not much tension on my thread right now. Now I'm going to go in front of those wraps, and then I'm going to pull tight. Now that's going to leave that tail nice and straight versus, bushed out like the front here.
Okay.
And if it spins like that, you roll it back and then you get a few more tight wraps. And you can go back and lock down. You can't go back to that last wrap and pull tight, because then it'll flare everything.
Okay. That's a great tip. I think a lot of guys probably don't know that. And I really love how you can just see right now while I'm looking at this from my perspective, the whole front is really just, it almost looks buoyant, like it's going to be trapping air really well, and that back section just has a great look to it. I can see where you pinched it down, and that tail is just riding out really nice.
Thanks, Tim. Now I'm going to move on to the hackle that's going to be palmered up to this would be the abdomen of the fly, and I'm just using a brown hackle, just from a cape, saddle, whatever I have. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna find the webbiness, go to above the webbiness of the hackle, clip the stem, and I'm gonna give myself a little bit of teeth on the feather to tie into.
And will you show them what you mean whenever you say that?
The teeth of the feather. Like I'm just coming up the barb, I guess it's about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm leaving these hackle fibers just partly sticking up.
And that way, whenever you tie your thread on, it's really going to grab the fibers?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
That thread's going to lock in between all them versus having a slick stem to slide off of, or for the stem to pull out of. Just tie that down with a few tight wraps. Now I tie these, I have a big stimulator that I tie in black, but most of my flies are either this pale yellow, which I really like in all sizes, and then the and then the green,
Oh yeah,
and the orange. But for this pattern, I'm going to use just beaver dubbing. This is the pale yellow I use.
okay. One of your go-to colors.
One of my go-to colors.
Everyone notice he really put that green up there quick. So my advice is pause the video back on that fly, because I think that one is a killer.
The green one is just a hairline dubbing insect green.
Okay. It just really showed up nice and bright.
Yeah,
Great attractor.
absolutely, Tim. So we're just going to dub a noodle on. I like to keep the dubbing fairly sparse. Dub on. Make sure you get back and cover the thread up. And then just taper, just slightly taper a body up. Now some guys will put wire to lock the hackles in, but I would prefer just to tie another fly than to put wire on a dry fly.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I'm going to take my Stonfo hackle pliers, which I absolutely love and have bought since watching Tim's video.
Oh yeah, product placement.
I mean, they are awesome. Now I'm going to hackle this with the rotary vise.
Okay.
If you don't have a rotary vise, you can just hackle it the normal way. And the hackle length, as you can see as this comes around, I like this just a little bit past the barb. And I pre-selected these hackle fibers before we started. But you want them, you wrap them around the hook and you want them just a little bit past the point. If anything, this hackle may be a little bit longer than I usually like, but I wouldn't stop tying if I were producing these flies out with it.
Yeah. I'm sure with it being a little longer too, it helps with the buoyancy.
Absolutely. When we get up here to the next step, you're going to see that I like the front hackle longer than the back hackle to kind of get that riding a little bit top, front high. So tie that in. Now we're going to select another clump of deer here, and this one's going to be a little bit bigger. Same deal. Clean out the butts. Put them in the stacker. And like amount wise, I would say not quite twice as many as the tail, but maybe close to.
Closer to than less.
Yeah.
Now, do you ever have a desire, do you ever trim those hackles on the top to allow them to rest a little bit closer to the body, or is that just not a big concern to you?
Not a big concern at all to me. I mean, you'll see this. I like this to ride like maybe on a 22-degree angle up. I like it cocked up.
Okay. You said 22?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
We'll have to get out the protractor afterwards.
well, we can. So I'm going to line these up. Now again, I'm going to get my thread closer to the eye of the hook. That way I'm not working the deer here, like my tie-in point back here is where I want to end. But I don't want to have to push those flared butts up to this point. So I'm going to start here and work back.
Okay.
And again, I'm going to line up. Now I like the wing of this to line up with the tail. So I'm going to get that. Do a little soft loop, 1, 2. I didn't have a good place to pinch, so I just moved my fingers up there, pulled tight. Now I'm using my index finger to kind of keep this from rolling around, and I'm locking it down to my hook. Not worried about those few hackles that are getting trapped. Now the same deal. So I'm pulling tight all through here. Now if I let go of this wing, it's going to kind of stand straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to come back through here and just pull a little bit of extra thread out and just wrap over that kind of light and come back up forward.
Oh yeah.
And for the most part they'll stay down.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go up in here and trim up this mess. I'm just kind of getting all this out of the way to cover up with dubbing.
It's nice to see whenever you are wrapping back, you were not shy about going over those hackle fibers, about going over the dubbed abdomen. I mean, you just went right back into it. And I think that's something a lot of younger tyers or those who haven't been tying for a number of years, they're unsure if that's almost allowed in a sense. And if everyone's watching what Don just did, I mean, you have to do with what has to get done for the fly. And he just went straight back. He has a couple hackle fibers that may have gotten caught, but that's not a big deal. They can be trimmed away. They can be left there. It's really not life or death when it comes to this.
Right. I mean, to get this angle to keep it from going straight up and down, I mean, you got to think if you ended your fly at that dubbing, you have a wall there. And if you dig them hairs down into that wall, they're naturally going to want to stand straight up. So when you come out over that dubbing just a little bit, you know, you're allowing this to lay back a little nicer. And then the more you just keep working these hairs back, the flatter they're going to stay.
Okay.
Now again, I went to a grizzly hackle, just off of a neck. Again, saddles, whatever you have. Same deal. Go through, get up to the webbing, just cut that hackle. Now I pull some down, and then I just come right up along the stem. It's a little harder to do trying to show it for the camera.
That's
but
okay.
I'll cut those fairly tight to the stem, and then just face that thing towards me. Get back. Tied to that end.
Mm-hmm.
To that end thread bark, remembering not to put a lot of pressure at the very last thread wrap because you're trying to keep those hackle fibers down. Now I'm just going to use the same yellow. Some flies you can go two-tone at this point.
Do you see an advantage of that?
No, I used to do it just because thinking it was a difference, but the hackles are actually creating two different colors for you.
Yeah.
I do like using two different colored hackles at this point.
And that's a great combination.
But yeah, as far as dubbing choice goes, I don't. So just dub that noodle on here again. Now this one we are going to want to taper more down to the eye, where the abdomen had a little flatter of a taper. So I'm going to build this back up just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Just to help create that impression going down.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Just like so. Now this one I don't believe I need the hackle pliers for. Now I like taking one full wrap right at that dubbing line, and then I go up and I usually have, so that would be the second wrap, third wrap, and then one in the front. Couple wraps to tie that in. Just squish those hackle fibers back. I like having a nice looking rusty brown thread head. I'm going to clip off the hackle. I'm going to put a whip finish in here.
Oh yeah, this fly is looking gorgeous.
Trim that. And then any of these guys that I don't like, just a little.
Man, that is looking sweet. It's obvious from watching you tie this, you've definitely tied a few of these over your life, because that one just rolled out. It's all uniform. I mean, the hackles are just lined up just real pretty. So is the tail of the wing and the tail of the tail. Just an awesome job, Don.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I hope all of you enjoyed this YouTube fly tying tutorial featuring Don Ward of the Keystone Fly Rod Company. Be sure to check out his website, and it is again
KeystoneFlyRodCompany.com.
awesome.
And
go ahead.
And you can find me on Facebook under Don Ward.
Perfect. Spelled with a W and an A and an R and a D. And as always, feel free to check out more of these tutorials on my website at www.troutandfeather.com.